We could go together, Morgan.
Where's the rainbow at?
Don't you want to go where the rainbow ends?
But I also know that you went to Nick's hotel this morning and talked to the desk clerk. Keep going.
David degenerated in...
The history of the world is the history of violence. Mankind seems intent on destroying itself.
Trust me. Everything's gonna be fine.
Well, Uncensored Cinefiles fans, the moment you've all been waiting for, the review of The Ninth Gate. I'm here with lovely Bianca, and we're going to be getting into the Roman Polanski film, The Ninth Gate, starring Johnny Depp. So, Bianca, this movie was hammered by film critics. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it actually. I think I enjoy it. It's better on a rewatch. The first time I watched a movie, I wasn't particularly, I don't know, wowed by it. I think I had some issues. I found it a bit weird, a bit strange. I didn't know what genre it really fell into. I found Johnny Depp's character didn't seem very proactive. It's a very it's like the most straight man performance from Johnny Depp he's ever done. He's not overreacting. He's just kind of there's none of this Jack Sparrow, Mad Hatter Johnny Depp that we've seen in his later films. This is a very subdued performance from him. And at first it's kind of, you don't know how to necessarily react to it. And then of course it has that weird ending to the movie, which it's a film that is very, when you watch it at first, it feels very silly, and it's almost like it's hard to take seriously. But then when you start rewatching the movie and analyzing everything, and you sort of know more about the outcome of the film, I think you begin to enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I'm not surprised that critics I reacted so negatively towards it, but it did really well at the box office. So the public seemed to really respond to this movie quite well, and we've had quite a few people on Twitter who actually said they really like it and consider it one of their favorite films. So
Mm.
I think it's got more love from the public, because what do critics know? You know,
Yeah,
nothing.
exactly. Yeah. So for me, it's actually one of my favorite films because it shows like the inner workings of the power structure, but it does it in a way that's more spiritual than Eyes Wide Shut, which came out the same year. So
Mm,
Eyes Wide Shut was much more of a look at the cult and their intelligence network. So like you have like the people following him around, you have
mm,
like the Chinese shop guys with the young girl. Like it's much more about like the network and like the rules of the network.
mm,
Whereas this one's far more of a look into what their actual belief system is. And I think the Ninth Gate's almost like a modern day telling of Dante's Inferno, um,
mm.
but in a different sort of way. It's like the apotheosis of man. And the interesting thing I wanted to ask you is, when did Johnny Depp's career like take off and become like this huge career? Was it after this movie? I believe it was, where he had all the Pirates films and all that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, it's interesting. Like there was like that period where he had he was like into sort of more indie, sort of very like low budget movies, and then suddenly like he in the 90s, him it's kind of like him and Leo, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, like they all sort of start their careers sort of taking off, and Brad Pitt, they all had that sort of like massive explosion. Um, I mean, I'm trying to think what Johnny Depp had been in prior to this movie. Because I read this movie, I read up about this movie, and apparently he like took a pay cut to be on this movie, and his usual fee was like 10 million. So he must have been in bigger pictures before this one to be earning, to be able to have like a paycheck of 10 million. So, but I don't know what it was that he was in. Because I was thinking he then did what, From Hell after this,
Mhm.
and then did the Pirates movies, and then
When did he do Sleepy Hollow? That was him, right?
oh, that was in 99. Yeah.
Same year.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of the same symbolism in Sleepy
Mm,
Hollow that you see in this film,
yeah. It's
right?
interesting. That is interesting. Yeah. It's I see there's like a recurring thing about like why 99 is like the best year of a film. Like
Isn't it
yeah,
strange?
yeah, like all of these movies sort of like came out in that year. So it's great.
It's almost like the pinnacle of human civilization was 1999, and then since then it's all been downhill,
Yeah.
which was
So
talked about in The Matrix as well, if you remember.
yeah, since we got what like social media, then everything's gone downhill. The launch of the iPhone was that, the end. The
Yeah.
but
So,
talking about ends and everything, what do you I wanted to I know we haven't even begun really discussing the movie,
mhm.
but how do you interpret the ending to this film?
Okay, so I think the ending is best described by the panels and like how they all lead
Mm,
to the ending moment, which is so you have to remember that this movie was made by Roman Polanski, which I'm sure you know, and
mm,
he's one of these evil um Hollywood child people, right? He's done horrible things with children and stuff.
mm,
And I think he's portraying their belief system, which is if you follow the path of Lucifer, you can free yourself from this reality and become like God, being immortal, which is the original lie of the serpent. But in this movie, they're bringing you on that path as you sort of follow along with Johnny Depp. and you're
Mm.
more going for a ride than like the main character is not really doing anything. He's just kind of like being taken along on this journey that he's sort of
Mm.
being guided on
It's like
by,
somebody else pulling the strings.
yeah, like every time like something happens, it's like sort of connected to like either the redheaded girl that's like at the end of the film with the fire behind her, like you are now, or you know, these other people that are trying to do the path but the wrong way. So like Johnny Depp is going along the path in like a spiritual way. He's having a spiritual enlightenment where everyone else is trying to attain materialistic wealth and power in this realm. And that's like the difference between Depp and the other characters in the film. Right? So
Mm.
the end, it's showing you the Luciferian, like the castle represents our reality, which is why it has the four towers. So it's like representing the four seasons, the four elements, all this. So when he breaks through the tower at the end, and this is obviously full of spoilers, he walks into the light of Lucifer, achieving immortality and breaking free of this realm, which is all Freemasonic teachings, right? That they're showing you. What
Yeah.
did you think happened at the end? That's
I don't think like I think none of the movie actually happens. I think it's all like a dream because he gets knocked out at the very beginning of the movie by that witch woman. Uh the woman who's the widow.
Mhm.
Um and that's my theory. It's a no no, I'm only joking. Um
Oh, okay. I was like, that's an interesting take.
that could be what yeah, it could be something that you could argue. I do feel like, yeah, that um he's Johnny Depp's just a vessel and he's just been used this whole time to bring about the end. And I wonder that the girl in the movie, um, I wonder whether she is actually Lucifer,
Mm,
just because like people said that there's different theories on things like, oh, she's just a sort of a witch, or she might be like the whore of Babylon. But I feel like I think she is just Lucifer, who is using Johnny Depp as just you know, a sperm bank.
yeah.
And you know, um, ultimately, that's why his character is so um, passive and just used by so many people is to indicate that that's all the only good that he is. He has no other purpose. So I think that, and maybe you could just say that the ending, the scene is, um, I don't know whether it's like, it's interesting because it's like that white light and it looks, if you didn't know the rest of the movie, you would think it was maybe him. He's obviously transcending to something greater. But if you didn't know the rest of the movie, you would think he was going to like a heavenly plane,
Mhm.
you know. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. So I don't know. It's like I say, it's like a movie that initially um I wasn't too impressed with it, but now I've rewatched it. I think it's interesting, like the whole there's so much comedy in the movie,
Mhm.
and it's like okay, because it's clearly made by somebody who finds the whole thing just amusing,
Yeah.
but and wants to make fun out of it. But sometimes, like when you mentioned about like the court jester
Mhm.
being the only one really to be able to sort of like remind like the king or the lord or whoever um that they were mortal. I feel like maybe that was the role that Roman Polanski's taking on with this
Mhm.
movie
Yeah.
is to maybe he's trying to put people in their place. I don't know.
Yeah. Not everyone shares the same fate, is what he's trying to remind the people
Mm,
throughout the movie. So,
mm,
like, the king and the beggar share the same fate, but the jester was able to escape the maze,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah,
like, it's not about wealth or power, it's about spiritual enlightenment. And, like, the one that was like Depp is sort of like taking it all on as the jester, and he's just sort of going through the maze, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, so ultimately, I wrote in my notes that I was keeping that um Corso, which is Johnny Depp's character, he doesn't fight the evil. He ultimately becomes the evil.
Hmm. Yeah.
And there's like that moment where I wondered, like so I feel like we should have done a synopsis before we did like started this discussion. So before we sort of get any further, did you want to explain the film to people who might not be familiar with the movie? Although I'm a bit like, if you're not familiar with the movie, why did you click on this to?
Yeah. I think you should have seen the movie already before coming to this review. So, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I can explain. Do you want me to run through like the basic premise, or do you want me to run through the panels?
shall I sum up the movie and
Yeah.
you can tell me whether I'm interpreting this all correctly.
Yeah, why don't you run through your summary and then I'll run through my analysis of the panels that are in the
Okay,
movie. Okay.
so there's a character called Dean Corso, who is played by Johnny Depp, and he is
It's a
a.
great name, by the
It
way.
is a great name. Did you know? Did you know Corso? I wrote in my notes is means run. So
Yes.
his name literally means run,
Yeah.
which is funny because in this movie he spends a lot of time running
Yes.
around doing stuff. So he
Definitely
is
intentional.
yes. So basically he is uh he's like a book detective. So
Hmm.
that's what he's described as. So he um finds rare books and um sells them on for people. He swindles people when we first meet him. Um he sort of like it's like there's that wonderful scene where he's like this elderly man who's must have dementia or Alzheimer's, and his awful offspring are just going through his books and selling them off. And Johnny Depp sort of like realizes that these people are clueless and manages to, snatch up um, a 4-volume collection of Don Quixote, which is, extremely rare. So that's his character. So we know, like, from the very start that he doesn't really have any morals. He's all about money. He doesn't really have a background. We don't know anything about his history. He's very much like a straight man in terms of like tells it as it is. When he meets uh Balkan,
Yeah,
is it
Balkan. Yeah.
Balkan, Balkan, who wants him to find his super rare book. And the book's title is what's the book's title?
The Kingdoms of the Nine Shadows.
Yeah, which is this book which is supposed to be, used to summon the devil, because it's also being written partly by the devil. He was ghostwriting,
Hmm.
maybe actually ghostwriting, like physically ghostwriting.
Do you
And
know this book that's in the movies based on a real book in real life?
yeah, well, it mustn't have been that famous because I've not heard of it. It's not like Harry Potter or 50 Shades of Grey or the Twilight books, so I don't know anything about it. Uh, mustn't have got to like the New Yorker's like bestseller list because it clearly isn't, no one's talking about it. Anyway, so it's this book which Balkan has a copy of, and he's like very open about the fact that he's worships Satan. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
is-
just so people know, the book that this thing is based on, the Nine Shadows of Gates or whatever, there's a book called the Codex Giga, Giga, which is known as the Devil's Bible, right?
That sound, do you know the Codex Giga sounds like someone who makes like dubstep or something?
Yeah. Well,
It's not a very,
I
it's
could,
not
I
a
could
really
get into
good.
whole breakdown of satanic
Mm.
music, but I'm not going to go there today.
Well, it's not a very catchy title, if you ask me. It's,
No,
you know,
no.
no. Anyway, so he tasks Johnny Depp's character to go find the other two copies to see whether Balkan, whatever his name, see if his copy is authentic or not. And then, oh, I forgot to mention at the very start of the movie, there's a guy, an old guy who commits suicide, Telfer, and it's his copy that Balkan has managed to obtain. He says he sold it to him, but we never see that transaction take place. And he has a crazy widow who wants the book back and literally does a Amber Heard on Johnny Depp. So
Yeah, there's a whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp scene in the film, you know.
yeah, she's like the classic femme fatale type of role. So she's like trying to seduce him. There's like a wonderful line where she was like, don't fuck with me, and then he's like, I've already did. I was like,
I thought we already did or something.
yeah. And he literally goes and attacks him with his pants down around his
Yeah.
ankles. She's like got her guy following Johnny Depp. He's goes to Europe after like, you know, being persuaded to go and find these other two copies. And then he meets this strange girl with green eyes who may or may not be a witch or the devil. We don't know. It's not.
Who knows?
Who knows? But she's definitely strange. She just, you know, she's not particularly like normal. Her eyes change
No.
weird colors. She has a strange accent.
She answers questions in a very particular, interesting manner.
Yeah, very odd. Anyway,
Like, are you a traveler? Yes. Are you a student? Yes.
yeah,
But what are you a student of? She never says.
no, exactly. And he's like, how long have you been traveling? And she's just like, ages. Like,
A really long time.
really long time.
Yeah.
So anyway, it goes to Europe and all sorts of stuff happen. I don't want to really give away too much of the movie, but
No, we're already past that. We've already talked about the ending. So.
okay, yeah, all right. Basically, yeah, weird like Satan worshipping cults are involved. People get murdered. Johnny Depp kind of loses his mind, I think, you know, in this movie. He has a rough time, basically. Like, and then movie ends with a crazy sex scene and a castle on fire.
Oh yeah. Which you're now depicting now. It's almost the girl with the fire behind you now. So
yeah, that was a trippy scene, wasn't it? I felt, you know, poor Johnny Depp. Like, he has two sex scenes in that movie, and they're both with like demonic women.
Yeah.
So, you know, method acting there, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. But what do you think? So at the end, when he's going back into and he's having sex with the girl, what do you think that represents? Before I break down everything.
Always use protection.
Always use protection. So it's my
It's like yeah,
yeah.
okay. Well, I'm being serious. I read something. Watched these really great videos. I just want to give this person a shout out. They're called Synergy, and
Mhm.
I over on YouTube, and they've done quite a few video breakdowns of the Ninth Gate. So I really highly recommend people checking out their videos. But they were talking about like this idea of the whore of Babylon. That's what
Yes,
the girl with the green eyes is representing. Um,
exactly. Yeah.
but is that what you found?
Yeah, because that ending scene
Mm,
is a depiction of Saint John's apocalypse, right?
right.
It's literally described in the Bible. Like they took that scene from that movie with the city of flame and the whore of Babylon riding a beast with 7 heads, which
Um,
represents the 7 Kabbalah tree of life, right?
or the seven deadly sins, maybe.
Maybe that as well. She probably embodies both of those things. And like what she represents is the divine feminine for the Luciferian occult. So she is like the mother goddess. She is like the source, right? She's like
Mm,
what they would call Gaia, Mother Gaia, or like the earth goddess, right? She represents our reality, and him coming back into that and like fornicating with that is what unlocks our reality, right? So he's unleashing the beast on earth, but he's transcending and achieving apotheosis afterwards. So like if I can just quickly run through these to like
yes.
let people better understand. So like the guy you mentioned, like I watched a bunch of his reviews and I thought they were good, but he was missing like what the actual occult believe in
Mm,
his breakdowns, and he missed the panels and what they really meant pretty badly. So if you read like Luciferian text and the Freemasonic stuff from like the higher level people like Albert Pike, basically what you come off with is this, and they depict this in video games like Assassin's Creed. You're constantly on this path of apotheosis. Okay. So in the panels, which are representing the entire movie, it
mm.
starts out with Silence is Golden, and they have the character doing the Freemasonic sign of silence that
But
I've
why is that different to just a normal like that? Why is that?
because of the other stuff that's in the panels. So like it's
Right,
showing you that like they are definitely referencing the occult. If you just took like an average person doing that, it might not mean that, but in this context of all the other stuff in the panels, like it's
right,
definitely,
okay.
in my opinion, it's, and this is the thing with these types of things, it's always left up to interpretation. So
Mm,
it's not like a hard set of facts. This is just symbolism, and symbolism is left up to the level of your esoteric knowledge, right? So
okay, so
to the
basically my knowledge is not like zero.
so to the average person, they get the what's called the exoteric meaning of these things,
Mm,
which means they just see a guy saying, "Be quiet, don't talk." But to
yeah.
the esoteric mind, you know, it's a Freemasonic sign, being like, if you talk, you die. That's like
Oh, okay.
part
Right.
of it. So in the panels, the castle represents our reality, a prison made by God. So you have to understand the Freemasons think of God as like this creator that entrapped us in this reality, like we're in a prison, according to the
Mm,
Luciferians. And Lucifer is who frees us from the prison. He's the champion of humanity. And that's why they call him the light bearer, which is why it ends with Johnny Depp walking into the light, right?
right, I see.
So in the movie, you can see there's 2 paths that people can follow. You can either follow the left-hand path, which is once again a Masonic thing, and you can also follow the right-hand path, which is represented by the Andrea de Torquio images in the
Mm.
movie, right?
Yes, and he's the person who wrote the book who was executed.
Yeah, but he supposedly incorporated panels that were drawn by Lucifer himself.
Who's
That's
a very
like,
great artist, may I just add.
yeah, a very good medieval artist, Lucifer.
You
All right.
know,
So
yeah.
if we go through, the first panel is the silence is golden one, the guy making the silence symbol, castles in the background. The difference between the Lucifer panel and the AT panel is the castle by AT has
Mm,
4 towers, which once again represents the 4 elements, the 4 dimensional like nature of our universe, right? And then the 3 towers, which was drawn by Lucifer, represents the Holy Trinity. So
mm,
the difference is materialistic world, spiritualistic world.
mm,
Which path are you going to take? Right at the very beginning. And then the next one is open that which is closed. In the Torquia ones, which is the human guy who wrote the book, the keys are in the right hand. And the one by Lucifer, the keys are in the left hand. So the
mm.
left hand path, once again, right? Are you going to take the left hand path?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Masons, a lot of things use silver and gold keys to represent their beliefs. Okay. So once again, in the second panel, another reference to Masonry, like blatant reference. Also in that panel, the second panel is a dog, a black dog, which is representative of Plutarch's dog, or the dog that accompanied Agrippa on Dante's Inferno. It represents Lucifer, Satan. You can see this in movies like The Omen. Okay.
Interesting, yeah.
All right. The next panel, The Lost World Keeps a Secret. It's a simple, once again, Masonic thing, which has arrows pointing down, arrows pointing up, which just represents as above, so below. And the panel's showing you that if you take the materialistic path across the bridge, you're not going to make it. Arrows will descend down on you from above. Like they're saying the spiritual forces won't let you cross the bridge if you take the materialistic path. Okay. Next one is fate is not the same for all. So this is the one with the maze, where the maze is bricked up. And
yeah, it's just really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so the maze is bricked up in Torquia's, but in Lucifer's, the maze has an exit.
Mm.
So if you're to take Lucifer's left-hand path through the maze, you can escape and enter the next reality. And that's just how it works. And then it's depicted as a jester, which is, as we talked about before, that's also a connection to the Jester Society of the Freemasons. And if you look at the dice on that page, it adds up to 666.
Of course it does.
And that's like a theme throughout the movie, right? Because Balkan's passwords are all 666 and all this.
Yeah.
So they keep showing you that. And why that's important is because in the Bible, when the beast rides the serpent, she comes into existence because she correctly identifies the number of the beast, which is 666. Right? So in the Bible, before the redhead at the end rides the beast, that's, she calls out the correct number of 666, right? Which is the number of the beast. Then we have enriched by death. And I thought this one was really interesting because this is the one where the guy's hanging upside down. And in the Torquia ones, he's hanging by the right leg. In the Lucifer ones, once again, the left-hand path, hanging by the left leg. And I thought this was interesting because Roman Polanski's wife, when she was murdered by Charles Manson, was hung in this exact same Masonic pose. So that's kind of interesting. And with that, it's once again, it's showing a warning for anyone that's taken the materialistic path. You're like, oh, you'll get hung. But anyone that's able to see the esoteric nature of the message would see that it's not a warning. It's showing you the transcendence into the next realm. That's why the guy's hair is not hanging down and he's smiling while being hung. Right?
Yeah.
Which is weird. The next one is 7. Disciple outshines the master. And this is the one where the king and the beggar are playing at the chessboard. It just represents that the king and the beggar will both die. in the maze. Like they're both trapped in the castle, and you see the dogs fighting in the background, which just represents our reality constantly fighting with itself. And the castle walls once again represent like the thing that they're all stuck in, but it's just showing you like the beggar and the king suffer the same fate. The 8th panel, second to last one, is virtue lies defeated. There's no halo on the knight and the Torquia ones. And then the Lucifer panels, there's a halo on the knight. And then there's a damsel that is representing virtue, that is executing one and helping the other one transition to the next realm. So when you're looking at it from the Lucifer version, she's a guardian angel. When you're looking at it without the halo, it's an execution. Right. So it shows once again, if you take one path, you make it, take the other path, you don't. And around the time they're showing this in the film, I think is when Balkan executes the witch lady. Right. And then the LCF panel is just showing you like there's a wheel in it, which represents fortune or fate. And it's making you on the path to being godlike from their perspective. And now the final panel, which is now I know that darkness comes from light. And this once again is the Illuminati dualistic representation of reality. They think that like without darkness, you can't have light, without evil, you can't have good. That's like the dualistic religion. So the scene comes from St. John's Apocalypse. It represents the final seal being broken, which shows the city's in flames. The whore of Babylon has come. She rides the beast with 7 heads. She welcomes all because she's the sacred prostitute. She rides the beast, which represents the 7 heads of Kabbalah, the tree of life. Lucifer, to them, is the champion of freedom. And he's the light bearer, which is akin to Odin and Prometheus and other stories. And what they're trying to show you is that if one follows the path of Lucifer, when they rebel, exercise freedom, and take a risk to earn a different fate than what the commoner shares with the king, immortality. And that's why Depp at the end is walking into his immortal next thing. Like he's achieved apotheosis by following the path of Lucifer to freedom. Right. Does that sort of make sense now?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's I was thinking when you were a couple of points, when you mentioned the left the left hand, the left path, and like people who were left-handed were considered to be witches. So like so there's always been like this suspicion around people who use their left hand. That's always been something that's like being associated with the dark arts and black magic and everything.
I did not know that. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, when I went to Edinburgh, they had an old water fountain where you would get your water from, and people who were with the left hand had to use a different side of the pump, and they were kind of like prejudiced against with that, so they had to use like almost like a separate part of the water fountain to get their water. And then other things, you mentioned about the black dog. I don't know whether this is just something that might not be associated with it, but depression is sometimes referred to as people's black dog. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
No.
I think Winston Churchill famously described his depression as being his black dog. So I'm just interested to sort of like see the association between black dog and, you know, that side of things and depression and how that sort of connects. But no, that's like what you were saying, like breaking down those engravings, which are a major part of the movie. The whole movie is, it's not about what the contents of the book is. And I think there's the wonderful scene where Balkan comes into the ceremony where they're all gathering and they're just reading from the book, and he's like mumbo jumbo, mumbo jumbo
Yeah.
jumbo, because it's not. It's the secrets of like the nine gates are not contained within the actual words of the book. The book could have just been that, no one ever reads, like, you never have anyone reading passages from the book, because
No.
it's not about that. It's about the engravings and
Mhm.
the differences between them. And it's Johnny Depp who works that out. These people have had like, or the people who've had the copies of the books for years haven't worked that out. So that's why it's interesting that he's, ultimately what like he has to go through some sort of test,
Mhm.
and then he's rewarded, but probably not in a way that normal people would want to be rewarded.
Yeah,
So
and also Johnny Depp's character is kind of interesting because, like, even at the beginning of the movie, they're showing you that he has specialized knowledge, and he's not like your average citizen. He's above the average citizen. He can tell, like, he can talk back to Balkan. No one else does that. Everyone else kind of just like bends the knee to Balkan, but Johnny Depp's like very like, oh, I don't have to like you because you pay well. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
he doesn't like give him the deference that everybody else does. He's almost like depicted as a jester throughout the entire movie because he's not really taking anything seriously. He's just kind of along for the ride, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
he also has no respect for anyone's like wealth or power throughout the movie, like the
No, no.
serpent lady and all that.
Yeah, yeah. She's he just doesn't seem that bothered by. He's not impressed by anything. Like, goes to all of these places, and it's like, it's interesting when he goes to visit the first person, the elderly man whose wealth is just sort of like dried up,
Mm-hmm.
like, but he still clings on to his book collection.
Yeah.
So it's just this idea. Like, I think it's also quite funny how the cult is made up of like these old people
Yeah.
who are just like, it's not about, it's not like about carrying out these like ceremonies. It's just like to have some old person orgy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think the depiction of the cult in this movie is very like accurate because I think like this inside I do think this cult really does exist in real life. Like my followers all know I talk about them all the time. I think in this one, which is differing from like Kubrick's depiction of them in Eyes Wide Shut, they're much more like powerful. The rituals are like more meaningful. In this one, they're exposed as like a bunch of rich people that think that their wealth and power come from being a part of this cult.
mm,
So they're like just kind of a part of it because they think they have to be. And they do the rituals and the sexual stuff just to like get off, right? And I think the truth probably lies somewhere in between. Like there probably are members of the group that actually believe in like the dualistic Freemasonic teachings. And then there's probably a good amount of them that are just there because they see it as their source of power and like wealth, right?
mm,
So I think
yeah,
if you take both movies' depictions of the same exact thing, which came out the same year, you get a pretty accurate view of what the power structure in our world is.
it is interesting that both these movies came out at the same time. Like, I wonder whether there was, I don't know, I might have to research into it. I wonder if there's like a crossover, whether maybe Kubrick and Polanski ever sort of like spoke, you know, or like how, like it's just. But you have that though. There are sometimes like the same similar sort of movies come out at the same time. I don't know
Mhm.
why. So, but
How
I
long
wa-
after Ninth Gate came out did Polanski have to run from the States? And
he's always been on the run since like 1970, 76 or something.
so he made this movie while he was already hiding out in Europe from all the.
Yeah, he's been like uh uh established in Europe for like 2 decades or so. Do you want to know something that's a bit weird? The girl in the movie, you know, the witch girl, is Roman Polanski's wife.
Really?
Yeah,
At the time of the movie being made?
they're still married.
They're still married.
I believe so. Yeah.
What happened to his first wife? Wasn't it Sharon Tate?
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I don't know whether he might have been married prior to Sharon Tate, but yeah. Um, that's obviously very strange, sort of, and tragic circumstance that happened there. So I wonder whether, in a way, that this movie could possibly be him sort of using it maybe as like a way to deal with his trauma. I don't know.
Some parts of it, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe it's like his way of. I mean, if you watch like the series on Sharon Tate and Charles Manson on Program to Kill, they did like a whole bunch of breakdowns of this.
Mm,
Maybe Polanski saw this film as a way to, in fictional form, since you can't just come out and say these things, to expose his view of the cult and their beliefs without actually telling everybody. You know, like everyone thinks Eyes Wide Shut was Kubrick's way of really exposing things. Maybe this was Polanski's way of like, well, if you guys are going to kill my first wife, I'll finally expose you like 20 years later or whatever
yeah,
it was.
maybe. It is interesting. But yeah, I just definitely think that there's some very interesting creative decisions made here. Like the fact that Johnny Depp's cast in this role in the same way that Tom Cruise was cast in Eyes Wide Shut, you know? Like there's this like major Hollywood actor who's cast to work alongside like this legendary director in a role where don't really have very much to do. Like at least Johnny Depp's character is given a bit more to do here than Tom Cruise's character, who is just sort of like, you know, just wandering around the cities of New York, meeting people and stuff. Whereas Johnny Depp's character is, you know, a little bit more action based here. So I just think it's the comparisons between the two movies, the sort of creative decisions that were made. I mean, obviously, if you want to get your movie a wide audience, you're gonna cast like someone who's a major star. But
Yeah.
I just the only problem I really have with this movie is the music. I still don't particularly like it. I think it's like a strange, like it has that silliness to it in certain
Yeah.
scenes, which are meant to be like sort of serious,
Yeah.
and then it's like
This
got
weird.
this comical music. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Depp's role, right? He's the jester.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're trying to infuse like that comedic sort of tone because of that. They're trying to keep it like you're watching a jester go through a maze, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I think they did the comedic tone. I mean, I agree with you that it doesn't necessarily match the movie. And so now you're like, well, why did they go with this weird sort of comedic background music? And I think that's probably why.
Yeah. No, I get that. I kind of also think maybe it's like um the whole situation is so absurd and everything. It's like they do say like comedy is the best form of therapy, and like there are just some situations where you just find yourself laughing at like how over the top everything is. And it's it's hard not to watch certain scenes and just find yourself laughing, like the whole the end scene where the ritual's taking place and Vulcan comes in and then like straight up murders somebody in front of all these people, and they're so frightened about him, and then all he has to do is go boo, and like they're all scurrying away, like you know.
Yeah. But I mean,
Um,
they're kind of showing what the occult are. Like, if any one of us walked into one of their little like ritualistic things and did that,
mm,
they'd all freak out and run away too. Because like they're so used to hiding behind like their power and wealth and like this whole idea that they're so scary that no one
mm.
would just go in and like do that, right? No one's ever probably done that in the history of their little group, so to them that was like, holy, they don't
Yeah.
have their little security guards between them and what's coming in. So it's kind of,
What did you think of the character of Vulcan anyway?
I think what they're trying to show with Balkan is your typical um banker that's like super obsessed with like the occult but has like no friends and like is trying to achieve apotheosis by the acquisition
Mm.
of wealth and power, right?
Yes, I think it's very interesting. Like he's always lecturing in some sort of way. Like when we first are introduced to him, he is giving off that lecture about medieval witches and witchcraft and everything. And then he's always at any opportunity sort of like lecture Corsos and you know establish that superiority he has over him.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's about money with him. It's like just add another zero to your paycheck, or you're going to be rewarded. And even up until the end when has obtained the 9 engravings, he's like just go back to New York, your check's waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to know, do you think when Johnny Depp kills him, because he's already on fire, he sets himself on fire believing that he's not going to feel anything, which is kind of like it's a that moment where he's like, oh shit, actually I'm on fire.
Yeah, because
um
Balkan never understood
mm,
what the panels were showing him, which is it
yeah.
wasn't about achieving power in our realm. It was about escaping our reality, not
mm,
achieving power in it.
yeah. Well, when Johnny Depp shoots him, do you think like it's a mercy thing, or do you think it's him taking revenge? Because he doesn't say anything, he just sort of like goes back and to grab the engravings and then shoots him. So
I think he was doing it out of mercy, but it's also a blood sacrifice,
right. Okay.
right? So Depp, along the way to achieving apotheosis, he had to kill somebody. There had to be a
Mm,
blood sacrifice made by Depp, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I also wanted to tell you, I don't know if you knew this, but the the twins, when he goes to visit the first visit to Spain, I believe, to ask about the book that Telfer
Mm.
brought, and they say, oh, it wasn't actually Telfer who was interested in the book; it was his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that they're played by the same actor?
What, both characters?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Well,
I didn't know they're not twins. I just assumed it was twins.
uh, also, at the end of the movie, when he goes back to the same bookshop and we discover the real engraving,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same actor playing another set of twins.
Really?
Yeah, it's just kind of cool.
That's strange. Yeah.
But like the theory is they're not meant to be twins, but doppelgangers. So a man and his doppelganger.
Huh.
So,
Really
but
odd.
yeah, like there's like you say with this sort of like
Why do you think they forged the final page?
um because it was all to set up Johnny Depp.
It was all
You
to
know,
set up Johnny Depp.
yeah, like he wouldn't. I doubt Johnny Depp would have, got all down and funky with the green eyes girl if he knew that she was, she was depicted in the last panel. I think maybe he would be like, yeah, maybe we should use protection after all. you know, like
Yeah, I don't know because Johnny Depp towards the end, Balkan offers him all the money,
hmm,
and Depp's like, "No, I'm not after the money anymore." Like he was after the secret of the panels.
yeah.
So maybe he would have done it anyways because he was after it. Like he wanted to see like where it all led.
Maybe if he knew about it and went and did it willingly, or uh, it wouldn't have worked. Maybe like he had to have that. It had to. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't actually know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
It's
an interesting one, isn't it?
so who asked the what were they called? Sensia brothers to do the forgery.
I think
That's
they did it themselves, right?
maybe.
I don't know.
Or do you think the girl asked them to do it?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe my opinion is they were trying to keep people from achieving what was in the books. Like they intentionally forged the last one so that if anyone ever figured out the LCF panel thing, that it would lead them to nothing because they wouldn't.
But what? So are they good people?
I think the brothers were good guys and they were trying to stop people from being able to use the book. Right.
Why not take out more than one engraving? Why not
Yeah.
forge the others?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. So maybe you are right. Maybe it was like until someone achieves the first nine, they don't get the last page. It's
Yeah.
also weird because like there's a clear reference to like the spiritual forces at play when Depp
Mm.
first goes to their bookshop because as he's leaving, remember all the stuff collapses behind him.
Yeah.
There's like no people there. So like what caused the collapse of that
I think
scaffolding?
as also that's kind of symbolic because there's no way back then. Like you say, like the the he's past the bridge, like he's
Hmm.
got through to the other side now, and that's collapsed, and now that's collapsed. He can't go back. Like his journey's like he's come too far already on his journey to go back. And also like who's making that fall? Like who's trying to prevent him from, going further?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've done a pretty good job of breaking this
Yeah.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is there's still so much to sort of like I do like it's a really interesting movie. I definitely think it gets better on a rewatch. Um
Yeah.
I think it's a film that has it's much easier to watch than Eyes Wide Shut, I think. Like there's some more entertainment towards it. Like it's a bit of, and it sounds odd, but it's a bit of a warmer movie.
Hmm.
Whereas like Eyes Wide Shut is very cold. It's very sort of like bleak. It's very. It's made by like a filmmaker who's very much about the method and everything, and like I feel like there's a bit more flexibility with this movie. It's a bit more open and free in that regard. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think next we should probably do an Eyes Wide Shut breakdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
And
God.
then maybe a comparison between the two films.
Yeah, I think so. I think
So,
that would be yeah, that's gonna be really interesting because
okay.
there's
So,
definitely a lot of similarities. We already sort of like spoke briefly about them, but
yeah.
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 So what would you say if you were to sort of like put this film into a genre? What genre would it fall in under?
To me, I would put this into sci-fi.
Okay.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's kind of science fiction-y.
I yeah, I was thinking it reminds me a lot of like the classic film noir movies with a
Hmm.
supernatural sort of like spin on it.
Hmm.
So
A
yeah,
film noir, yeah.
yeah.
What does that mean? What film noir is?
How do you not know what film
This
noir
is
is?
why we have the film expert on, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, like The Big Sleep, like the Humphrey Bogart movies where he's like a detective, you know, the classic, like he's a downtrodden detective. He gets caught up in like solving a murder, but the murder isn't like there's always like some sort of like conspiracy sort of element to it. And there's always like a femme fatale, like a beautiful woman who like seduces him.
You're like Dick
Um,
Tracy, you're talking. Like that's
yeah,
a film
yeah,
noir. Yeah, okay.
a
Oh,
film
film
noir.
noir. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. You know, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. It is a little bit of a film noir, yeah. So he's kind of
Yeah.
a book detective,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So
Anyway,
would you recommend this film for people to watch?
yeah, I think so. I think it's like even if you're not in like you don't buy the whole Freemason satanic symbolism thing, it is a lot of fun to watch. Like it's it's kind of like a movie that you kind of want to watch it and then talk about it and discuss it with people. But it's not a movie that is necessarily going to make you feel I mean it's there's not like a lot too much violence in the movie. I think by especially by like today's standards, I do think you could sort of like I wouldn't say watch it with like your grandmother, but you could watch watch it with like friends and family, you know, like in that regard. And like it's a movie that I think is definitely showcases Johnny Depp's ability to be an actor.
Mm,
Like, I think this is probably one of his best performances, and I really think the supporting casts are great as well. Like everybody plays their role. Like I kind of find like all the characters are so memorable and it's kind of amusing and like it's a bit some of them are a bit over the top and a bit like panto, you know, like a pantomime type of thing. Like it's a bit silly, but um I think it's aged quite well as
yeah.
well. Yeah, it's not a movie that's full of like dodgy special effects or anything. So
No.
yeah, I do recommend that.
Yeah, I recommend it as well. I recommend it to watch it with discernment, right?
Okay.
Because it's taking you on the path of Lucifer. But if you
Yeah.
recognize it and you use discernment as a Christian, it won't
Mm.
have a negative effect on you. It'll have a enlightening effect where
It's
you,
just a movie.
yeah, you understand more of what the enemy believes. That's what
Mm.
I would say.
Wow, it is just a movie. It's not meant to. It's just if you just remember that these types of movies are just and made to entertain people and make money at the end of the day. So that's what I just try and tell myself.
Yeah. But then there's my version of it, which is there is no such thing as entertainment. It's all programming designed to bring you on the path of the satanic dark New World Order.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Anyway, Roger Ebert didn't like this movie. I just thought I'd tell you.
Oh, of course he didn't. I give Roger Ebert a thumbs down.
Whoa.
We're way better movie reviewers than Roger Ebert or
Yeah.
whoever his partner was back in the day.
Greg Siskel, I think.
Siskel and Ebert, yeah.
Yeah, Siskel.
We're
Yeah.
now the new gold standard of movie reviews. So
Oh God, society really has gone downhill. Well, I mean, I found that interesting. A very interesting sort of breakdown of the movie. I really appreciated you sort of like going through the engravings. I hopefully we brought up some interesting points. So if people do want to sort of like feed that back to us, tell us what you think of the movie. Are you a fan of it? Do you think it's just like I think it's just some pure entertainment, or do you side with Titus on this one?
yeah, let us know your theories too down below. Did we miss something? Did I miss something? You know, let us know what y'all think. I love the feedback. So
Yeah, we do really appreciate it. So,
and go check us out on your podcasts. Just type in Uncensored Cinefiles. We'll pop up on Apple. Give us a review and a like and all that stuff so that other people can find the podcast.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
And check out B's website, which is
intheirownleague.com.
intheirownleague.com, and check me out on Twitter, Imperator Truth. Okay.
So thank you for watching and for listening, and we hope to catch you up with you soon. Yeah.
We'll be back with another episode soon. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Con cuidado, espacio que es más bruto. Aguanta. Atrás. Pasa por atrás.